They say looking back can be painful when thinking about your childhood, but I have to help children move forward. My name's Liam Kelly, and I'm the creator of the wonderful world of Worried William. It's a project aimed at helping raise the awareness of children's mental health. This project gives children a voice that will help parents understand how it feels to be a child growing up with anxiety and worries. As much as I can, I go around different groups and talk to children about how they're feeling. This helps me continue my work and gives me an insight into worries and how children are feeling in today's society. My worries were from 30 years ago, but things change and things change rapidly. So we need to be constantly thinking about how we can help our children today. As a child, I was always smiling because I didn't want anyone to know that I worried so much. So I just smiled. And that smile made people think that I was happy. My first worry at school happened when I was 6 years old, and I can remember it like it was yesterday. The teacher had asked me to walk to the front of the room to say a particular word. And as any child, I learned my spellings inside out. So the teacher asked me to walk to the front, and I walked to the front, and I didn't particularly like walking to the front, so I was quite nervous anyway. So I got to the front and I looked around and everyone was staring at me, and that really made me anxious anyway. It made me nervous. So the teacher pointed to the word, and the word was look. And I remember looking at it, and as I said the word, it all started. The word came out like look. And everyone started laughing. And I walked back to my chair and I put my head down and I cried and I cried. And as I cried, a little puddle had formed on the table. And I still remember that like it was yesterday. The one person that I wanted to tell the most was my mum. She was my hero, and I just didn't want to disappoint her. I kind of felt ashamed of how I was feeling. So every day from school I told her that school was great. I'm not blaming my mum, not at all. But I just didn't know how to tell her. I didn't want her to feel ashamed of me. And I guess 30 years ago that's the way it was that you didn't talk about worries and you didn't talk about anxiety because people would look at you differently. And it breaks my heart today that I couldn't tell my mum. It got to the point where no one seemed to be understanding what I was saying. And at the age of 37, I finally started to write my story. Because everybody kept saying to me, it'll be okay, it'll be okay. And this seemed to be words that people used. I guess it's because they didn't know what else to say. But they weren't really understanding what I was trying to communicate. And this really upset me. So I decided to write my story so that people could read it, because they didn't seem to be listening. Every child has a story to tell, and every adult has a story to tell. And I think writing your story down is the best way to communicate it, because then people will read it and really take in what you're trying to tell them. When I look back at that smile, I know I have to help other children smile. This is my chance to help children and to help parents. Worries really did take over my life at a young age. And when I was 13, someone had made a comment about a t-shirt. It was a very simple comment. Your t-shirt looks tight. But I really took it personally. And that was the catalyst for a 30-year battle with bulimia. And every single day, I could hear those words. And the bulimia took control of me. It took over my life. And I still had the worries and the anxiety, but I still had to smile. But a few years ago, I opened up about my battle with bulimia. And it was one of the hardest things I ever had to talk about. Just a few months prior to this interview, I told my mum. And she had told me, I was always here for you, son. And I knew she was, but I just couldn't tell her. I just didn't want to disappoint her. We really need to help children. We can't have children going through these battles anymore. I want my stories to start a conversation amongst children, amongst parents, so that they can finally talk to each other about how they're feeling. For our children to really be honest and open, they need to be in a safe environment where they know you will listen. Since starting the project, I don't feel alone anymore. I know I've got people to talk to. It is important that we put ourselves in the shoes of our children now, to make us realize how much they are going through. As painful as it is, I have to continue looking back. I have to go through those painful memories again and again and again, so that I can help our children. This is my passion now, is to help children better understand how it feels and what to do when they feel worried or anxious. I've managed to get through all my battles, and I'm here today, and I'm telling my story.